last day on earth. Godspeed, shalom, farewell. River, dusty child, kiss the sacred cow. Probably been waiting too long.
Last time we were together, we were messing around with different ways of drawing. We were doing Stewie, your way, your regular way you've always drawn since you were a kid. We did Stewie by doing non-broken line, contour line. We did Stewie in simple shapes. And then we did Stewie upside down to see if we could access that right brain. We're going to continue with that today. We're going to do two drawings. And we may have started one of them last week, but it's not a big deal. I don't think we got that far into it. So what I will do is I will share my screen and we will draw this guy here. Now, here's the goal. Clean lines. Whenever we sketch in a drawing, the drawing ends up looking like you're hunting for the lines. And there's nothing wrong with that if you're making up something out of your head. But even like in comic book art, where a ton of that happens, the final outcome of the drawing isn't those sketchy pencil lines. They give it off to a guy who's going to go over it with a marker and make all the lines nice and clean. Here's what happens psychologically in somebody's head when they see a sketchy line. Because everybody sketches, they know that artist was trying to figure out what the line was. So they know that artist was not self-confident, that that line is a searching line, and that's not bad. But if you want to radiate confidence and make yourself seem, even if you're not, to have a strong belief in what you're doing, you go with unbroken lines. So as we take a look here at this guy, these are nice, clean, unbroken lines. Is he out of proportion? Do his hands look big? Yeah, they do. But you know what? It looks very much like he meant every line he put down. So I'm going to have you guys start with this dude. Take your time. If we need more time once the buzzer rings, I will put more time on the clock. But I want you to attempt to start with this guy's head at the top of your paper. Work your way down with these clean, unbroken lines. All right? On your marks. Get set. Go. All right. So hopefully that turned out pretty good for you. You guys will be sending it to me. Remember, I don't care what it looks like as long as I'm seeing you trying it. Because just like every song I ever learned how to play, 99.9% of them didn't go well the first time I tried to run through them. So, you know, we're learning, we're getting better. That's the whole key of this. All right, so for my next drawing, or for your next drawing, you're going to do our Stewie trick on this guy, except upside down. So I will start you with 5 minutes. Now, the last drawing took a little longer than 5 minutes, and we can add time. That's not an issue. What I would do is I'd start at the top of my paper. I would start drawing upside down all this information. I might cover everything but the first inch of my paper, just so I'm only focusing on the angles of these lines here. When that is done, I would lower my paper another inch and I do the parts that are right connected to that. And then just keep working your way down. Then another inch, until you get toward the bottom and you got his head. All right. So on your marks, get set, go. All right, so I'm going to stop that share there. And we're going to bop on over to my drawing table. Yeah, I'll reply to that after my Meeting. Okay. Well, I was going to go to our table. Where's my table? Oh, there's nothing at my table. Okay, cool. So here's what we're going to do now, and you guys can draw this along with me as we go, or as I go. We just went over a concentration exercise. Now we're going to go to a simple shapes exercise. So let's see how much of this I got in the screen. Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do now is something that is very left brain. What we've been doing has been right brain, but I feel it's kind of important for you guys to be able to see the simple shapes along with being able to make a clean line. All right. And those two things may sound contradictory, but they're really not. I mean, whenever we look at something, we see the outline of it, even though it doesn't have an outline, we see where that form meets the air. But we also see beyond that, and we see the simple shapes that make it up. So, since we did hands the other day, we didn't really cover on how to do simple shapes for the hands. All right. So, on your paper, you can do this on the back too, because this is just a sketch. Draw yourself a potato shape. All right. Doesn't have to be a huge potato, it could be a smaller potato. Um, don't draw a sweet potato because they kind of point. They're not particularly good for the palm of the hand. So what this is this becomes this part of the hand, right? All right. From our potato, we have to make the thumb. Now the thumb is this weird shape that's part of your hands, and it's what makes us different from most animals aside from raccoons and apes. All right. To make this thumb area, I'm thinking chicken leg. So I start off with my chicken leg here. There's my crease. I come back and I kind of have a simple shape that looks like a chicken leg. You know, give yourself a minute or two to make that Happy Meal that you're working on or your Boston Market dinner of choice. I'm going to erase that line because I shouldn't be able to see through it. Okay, so the meat of the hand comes in here as your potato. The thumb comes in as a chicken leg. There's this kind of roll up through here that is not unlike a large Tootsie Roll, or maybe it's a small ear of corn. You can tell I'm hungry today. But it's kind of this part that goes directly under the fingers. Because if you ever know, as you bend your hand, that section is where your knuckles are, and that kind of comes along with the fingers, you know, if you're making a fist or whatever. So the part where the knuckles are becomes this kind of, you could call it a Tootsie Roll, you could call it an ear of corn, whatever you need to call it. Okay. Now the fingers, you got a couple different ways you can look at the fingers on a hand. You can look at them as hot dogs. All right. So kind of organically flowingy hot dogs, right? Or because they have three separate pieces each, you can think of them as tater tots. And draw them in three pieces. I'm going to bend this one over just for the sake of bending this one over. All right. So when it bends over, I only see two parts because the other one is blocking. That is a large pinky. All right. So whatever makes sense to you. If you can remind yourself when you're doing the hot dog shape that there are three parts to your finger, and that's usually where it's going to bend. You can do that. If you're like, nah, I need to think about it as three separate parts, you can break it down into tater tots. All right. Now, as far as the detail on your palm, and this isn't going to be evident in every hand drawing, I'm going to erase this out. This becomes your lifeline, wraps down around the leg of the chicken. This becomes your love line. If it's got a break in it, somebody broke your heart. And this becomes your wealth line. And you read the wealth line from the outside here. So as time passes, hopefully your wealth line goes up because you got rid of your kids. Kids are expensive. And you're now living in your house with your spouse and going out to eat breakfast every day. At least that's what my parents do. They're retired, or they did until the pandemic. Now they just stay at home. All right, so those are the basic shapes of the hand. Now, why is this important? Well, if you're making stuff up out of your mind, your ability to draw the hand quickly is probably a benefit to you because people get stressed out from doing hands, right? So I do my potato. I know there's an extra part here. And sometimes I draw that part. Sometimes I just malform my potato. And then I bend finger over finger or hot dog over hot dog. All right. So I do a hand like that. I can do a hand like this. It seems to be pointing. There's my chicken leg again. All right. And the reason I'm showing you this is because hopefully this helps demystify the hand to make it not as complex. And if you see it from the back, you may not see any fingers at all. If you're looking at the back of the hand, you might see this. Now, unfortunately, I spent my entire time in junior high drawing hands from the backside because I was too scared to draw fingers. Luckily, I overcame that. All right. So at least at this point, you should have yourself a simple shaped hand. Now, here's what we're going to do with that hand. I am going to have you do your initials. All right. So your first name, your second middle name, and your last name. First letter in each one of those. And you're going to pose those hands in the appropriate hand from the sign language. So you're going to do 3 hands, simple shapes. If you finish early, start adding details. All right. Mike, this would be your M. This would be your D. I don't know what your middle name would be. All right, but those are going to be the poses that you would use. Araceli, you've got 2 A's. So if you want to give yourself a different letter, you can. Try to get 3 in there. Now, somebody in my last class said, I don't have a middle name. I said, cool, give yourself a middle name. And he said, faux show. And I said, that is the most cool middle name ever. MSD. There you go. So yeah, you could pick the more simpler letters if you don't want to repeat one. All right. So I'm going to give you the next 7 minutes to work on that. It'll probably go faster than the other one because you're making shapes and you're sketching more than you're worried about line quality. All right. On your marks, get set, go. Actually, we could go a little past 7 if we have to. So once in a while when I am checking out Pinterest, I'm not even sure anybody uses Pinterest anymore. No, it's Tumblr that isn't, nobody's using anymore. But Pinterest, I think people are still using. They throw me up all kinds of stuff I'm into, comic book stuff, food stuff, music stuff, and artists. And so I heard of this guy first on Pinterest, and he is a digital artist. Yeah, you can get lost on Tumblr and go deep to where you're like, how many pages am I in this thing? But this guy is a digital artist, but he makes all of his stuff look like a painting. So as you go through it, he's real big in painting dystopian worlds. And his name is Simon, like Simon says, Stalenhag, Stalenhag. And his website has every painting he has ever done. So if you ever want to, you're bored, you got nothing to do, you want to just kind of probe out and look at his work, a lot of his work is almost like illustrated stories. Because you look at it and you go, okay, there's got to be a reason that thing is in that barn. Is it still working? Is it frozen? Is it some creepy leftover robot um, that exists there? Some of his stuff is more subtle, like this. I think this is. Oh, I'll have to check out Trevor Henson. I'm not Henderson. I don't know if I know him. Um, but this guy, they made a TV show on Amazon Prime about his stuff, which I think is called Tales from the Void. And each episode is kind of an independent story, even though some of the characters are the same from episode to episode. It goes off with a different character and tells a whole different story. They're always a little on the emo side, always a they're always got a ton of darkness in them, but they look like his stuff. So he was like one of the executive producer, and it's always like there was this big battle at one point, and the world just got on. But the battle must have taken place in the 50s because these are like 1970s cop cars, and the technology going back to that Buick could be 80s. Um, but this guy is really fun because you look at his stuff and you can kind of get this idea of something that may have happened, and your brain starts to fill in either the after or the before. Some of the stuff is downright creepy. Sirens in the cat cartoon. Okay. Yeah, give me a sec, man. I'm actually gonna write that guy's name down. Trevor Henderson. Son. But there's a whole series of these people who are plugging into like these charging stations or these data downloads. And because he does digital, his ability to change stuff very quickly allows him to kind of create little storylines, like this person who found this dinosaur, this weird clown dinosaur, or this robot and this girl walking through this kind of burned out California area right before the mountains, you know, old destroyed robots, creepy ones where that thing that is plugged into that dude's head is on this dead body, and you see the little girl in the robot again, or this thing coming out of this guy's backyard. So yeah, Simon Stalenhag. If you get a chance, his stuff is just really cool. It's really moody. There's one with this boombox and this little girl, and all of his stuff is super realistic. And then it just starts turning into a smear, like reality doesn't exist here anymore. And because it's digital, he actually has to go out of his way to put in these kind of canvas textures to the background, which I think is really neat. There's another one with the little girl and the guy with the boombox. All right, so you guys are probably out of time and need to clean up. So I will let you go. Simon Stalenhag, if you get a chance, check him out. He's really cool. Um, I love digital art just because I think it's probably what's going to replace regular art, just because it's easy. There's no harsh chemicals. You can make the image as big as you want. You can reproduce it. It's the world we live in now. So, all right, guys, have yourself a good day. Stay out of trouble. Turn in your hands you made on the first day as well, because I'll be grading that separately. So second hand, simple shapes. First hands, contour line and this upside down drawing we did today. All right. All right. See you on Thursday. Bye.